This week on Entrepreneurs, we explore the shopfront of the future. I'm Jack Delosa, and Entrepreneurs starts now.
This is Entrepreneurs.
Tonight we are looking at Australian retail and e-commerce in 2019. Joining me are marketing advisor Kate Joseph and Claire Morizano, founder of interior store Lumo Design. We also hear from Piers Redwood, founder of a new payments business called PayRight. But we're going to start tonight's discussion with Paul Greenberg, head of the National Online Retailers Association, or NORA. Paul entered the online retail space at the cusp of the internet revolution, co-founding the hugely successful Deals Direct site. Paul, great to have you on the show from Melbourne. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Good to be here.
Now, Paul, you've seen hundreds of online retailers create, dissipate and grow, going global included. What are some of the greatest recent success stories you've seen and why?
Well, it's a great time to be chatting, Jack. I mean, really, the results are coming through and they're brilliant. I mean, let's start with the listed online retailers, Kogan, Templin, Webster, all delivering outstanding results. Our friends over at the Catch Group on their way to $1 billion of annualized sales. I mean, it's hard to believe they were a startup a blink ago. Then, of course, you've got the privately held fashion, the rock stars. Showpo is a fine example, Jane Luce and Frock. The list goes on, really. And let's not forget, of course, the established retailers who are jumping on board the online boom. They're doing really well as well.
Paul, Amazon has obviously been a big change. It's been in Australia for more than a year now. Where has it had the most impact?
Look, Amazon's been an interesting one. It's been quite a soft start, actually, Jack. But in truth, I'd have to say the biggest impact is that it's been a great mobilizer for our retailers. I think in anticipation of Amazon building up some traction, we've really got our acts together a little bit. I think we owe them a vote of thanks. But in fairness, Amazon would call themselves a long play here. In the short term, I think we'd all agree it's been a bit of a soft start for them. But I'm quite bullish that actually not only will they continue to grow, but they'll actually help and enable some of the retail opportunities here for us. So I'm a friend of Amazon, not a foe. Let's see what happens.
That's great. And Paul, how do you see that playing out? What sort of opportunities do you think Amazon throws up for Australian retailers?
Well, I started my internet career, my e-commerce career, and thanks for those kind words, selling on a marketplace, as did Ruslan Kogan. As did Gabby Lebovich and Hezi of Catch Group. So a lot of our retail entrepreneurs of today had their start, 10 years ago or less on a marketplace. And Amazon, as a global marketplace, one of the largest, 300-400 million customers in North America and Europe alone, I think can be over time a big enabler for Australian retailers and Australian brands to go global. So let's give that a big tick. Of course, it's a great channel to sell domestically. And of course, there are other services, including their web service and Alexa business, voice business, I think will help retailers grow and develop. So that's just an overview. And not everyone would agree with me. Some people, I think, are feeling a little bit challenged or threatened by the Amazon behemoth. I think alliances are going to be the way of the future.
Paul, let's talk retail trends. What's on the decline at the moment and what's hot?
Well, in terms of verticals, I mean, fashion has been a standout, particularly in online, and it's been so thrilling to see some of our fashion retailers go global. And Brand Australia, I think, is in brilliant shape in both in China and in Greater Asia, as well as in North America and Europe. So I think that's been terrific. Pet has been a wonderful category. I think we're seeing double-digit growth in the pet category, and I certainly know I've spent some good dollars on my cat Mackie recently, so that resonates closely to me. Look, homewares have also been strong thanks to the housing boom, but I think there'll be a little coming off, I think, of some of the furniture retailers and some of the homewares businesses, but it's been a golden period for them as property prices have soared.
Paul, do you think it's risky for potential retailers to enter a bricks and mortar type environment now as a startup business?
Actually, Jack, on the contrary, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think some of our best physical retailers today have started their journeys in the digital environment. I call it phigital, the meld of the two. And I think a good strategic, not everyone likes it, but, let's get phygital. I'm not going to go there, but you get the gist. I think good retailers are saying, look, we've got a great brand online, and Catch Group are a great example. They've opened a store in Chatston. It's doing incredibly well. So I think once you build your digital presence, put your toe in the water with a physical strategy. You don't have to roll out hundreds of stores, but I think customers like multiple touch points with their brand of choice. You know, the key message I'm giving to retailers, although my background is online retail and I'm a passionate online retailer, customers shop by brand, not by channel, and we all have to remember that. So if a physical asset is part of your strategy, don't be shy, have a go.
Paul, you mentioned dipping your toe in the water when it comes to having a digital presence. For those looking to start a retail operation in 2019, what are the main tips you give them?
I wish I was a bit younger because I'd be one of those, Jack. I'd love to have a go. But look, I'm passionate. You know, one of the things I've been saying for a long time is get big, get niche, or get out, and I believe in that. So I'd be finding a niche if I was a young entrepreneur wanting to get into the business. Find a niche and really try and own it. I'm a big fan of vertically integrated or disintermediated businesses. Simply put, you know, you own the brand that you sell in your store, either online or physically. So, you know, think of a brand like Koala Mattresses, which, you know, is an end-to-end vertically integrated business. There are many examples like that on the big end of town, Nespresso, Samsung, Zara, Nike. The list goes on. I like a disintermediated business. I like a niche business. And I like a global business. Definitely a niche global brand trumps anything that I did 15 or 20 years ago in the domestic market.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us on Entrepreneurs. Very wise words.
Thanks, Jack, and looking forward to hearing from the other panelists. There's some fantastic people on the show.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Paul. We appreciate it. That's all we have time for. After the break, we'll be talking fashion brands and homewares. Stay tuned.
You're watching Entrepreneurs.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. We are talking about the future of retail and e-commerce. Joining me now is fashion specialist Kate Joseph and home fashion and interiors expert Claire Morazzano. Now, if we begin with Kate, Kate has helped grow iconic brands such as Camilla and Mark, Estee Lauder, Camilla, Sass & Bide, Benden Group, Easy Buy and Afterpay. Kate, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jack.
Now, you've had an incredible career. What have been some of the highlights for you?
So many wonderful highlights. I think in general terms, the breadth and depth of wonderful brands and businesses, I guess Australian and global, that I've had the good fortune to work with. I'm very grateful for my digital kind of ride.
Yep.
As an old retail girl, 20 plus years in the business. It's just been, it's such a privilege to journey that digital way. And
you've obviously seen so many changes throughout your career. What are some of the prominent trends around Australian fashion brands at the moment?
So right now, I often look for fashion brands. For me, they need to stand tall globally. They need to. And not because they're necessarily going to do business internationally, but because there are a lot of international businesses or global businesses that do business here, plus you're existing in a digital world with social networks that are essentially global marketplaces. So that's one thing. I'm seeing a real kind of movement towards more mindful and conscious business. So lots of talk about slow fashion and sustainability and reducing my environmental footprint. And not only kind of niche Australian designer brands, but also global fast fashion brands like H&M that have their own recycling and huge conservation and other programs. So
that is incredibly interesting. Now, it's interesting times at the moment, lots of closures. How optimistic are you about the future and where retail's at right now?
I'm a big optimist.
Good.
I just think there are billions of customers.
Yeah.
And hence, if you have the right brand, if you know who you're wanting to influence, and you can market, and you've got the right business frame, you can be successful. There's plenty of commercial uptick to be had.
One of the things I found fascinating as I sort of scrolled through your career was just how impactful you've been to so many impactful brands.
Yeah.
How does a retailer, digital or otherwise, build a brand? What do we do to build great brands?
For me, brands are to build a brand, you have to start by identifying and articulating what your brand essence is.
Yes.
You know, the whole, what's your USP or your brand vision or brand values or whatever you like to call it. I'm a bit of a fan of Simon Sinek and the why, how, what. People often miss that piece, funnily enough. They know it, but they don't necessarily articulate it. So you start there, and then for me, building brands digitally is a great way to do it. But when you're articulating who you are, what you're about, what experiences you offer, that's really important.
Incredibly important. Now, Claire, you're an omni-channel retailer, boutique Lumo Design, based in Sydney's eastern suburbs, an online store distributing nationally. Tell us about Lumo Design. What are you focused on as a store?
So we specialise in Scandinavian designed homeware.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's very popular these days as well.
You've just won a customer. Another one. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah, good.
So we set up the business 5 years ago, and it's just really grown from there, really. So it's set up as a need that we wanted to redecorate our own home, and we just found there was a lack of choice. So that's why we started the business.
That's a great jump. I mean, you've had a background in finance, and you've gone into running your own business and going down the entrepreneurial path. Why the leap? What motivated that?
Well, I'd always worked in finance, which was great, but I'd worked alongside creative types in the media and music industry, and I'd always felt that there was this creative side of me that I wanted to explore. And also I was looking to work more flexibly along when my kids came along, and and that's why we set up the business, because I have a passion for Scandinavian design.
Absolutely beautiful. And you started online and then you went into bricks and mortar. Why did you go in that direction, and is that what you would do again if you had your time over?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we find that the bricks and mortar really complements the online business as well. Yeah. We find that customers will look for a certain brand online, and because of our price points as well, and because it's textiles and they want to be tactile with the goods, they might come into the shop and purchase there and then, or they might go away later, speak to their partners and then purchase online. So it gives them this 360 approach as well.
We were speaking about brand earlier. How important do you think the Scandinavian design element and really focusing on that niche and that unique selling proposition has been to the recognition and the build of your brand?
I think it's been really, really important, actually, because there's a lot of homeware out there at the moment, but for me it really fits nicely into modern-day living in Australia as well. People want it to be a sanctuary, and Scandinavian design offers that sort of calm, clean, lined approach to living. So, yeah, it's been really popular.
What's next for Lumo Design?
So this year we are growing the commercial side of our business, which is great, and we're also launching the property styling side, which is going to offer a turnkey approach to developers as well.
Great,
so,
great.
Yeah.
It's very exciting times, both in that space and for you guys as a business. Claire, how big do you see the global opportunity for Australian fashion brands?
Well, it's enormous because of the size of the market.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, if you've got a great global USP and relevance, you can do very well there. From experience, that understanding your position and your uniqueness, along with a very detailed plan across all components of your business. And then you need a fair bit of resourcing to get it right. So, you know, businesses in my category, well, within Australian designer categories like Zimmerman or Camilla that have a very unique position, do it more easily because there's no one globally doing anything like what those businesses do.
Cuts through the noise.
Yeah.
On that subject, a question for both of you, what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about going into retail? Tips for budding retail entrepreneurs?
So I would say be passionate about what you do. It really comes across to the clients.
Yes.
And also just to keep one eye on the numbers as well. So.
Yeah.
Important advice, particularly from someone with a finance background.
Absolutely.
Kate, what about you? Tips
Well,
for budding
I'd
entrepreneurs?
concur on get the business basics right. And I think also round out your skill set. So use your network. You know, you don't have to pay people. You can ask them to be a business mentor, but invite people with different or complementary skills to contribute experience and ideas to round out your business offer. So important, particularly in the early years. Yeah. Kate and Claire, thank you so much for joining us here on Entrepreneurs.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. After the break, we'll be talking sensible spending with Pierce Redwood, co-founder of PayRight, Australia's newest interest-free payment plan provider.
You're watching Entrepreneurs.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. Staying in the realm of retail, we are now joined by finance expert Pierce Redwood. Pierce is the co-founder of PayRight, which provides merchants with a payment solution for transactions in the $1,000 to $20,000 bracket. Pierce, thank you so much for joining us on Entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Super interesting business. Tell us about it and what prompted you to start it.
Well, the business is called PayRight, as you said. We operate a buy now, pay later product. One of the emerging providers in this space. We're probably a little bit different to some of the other providers in the marketplace in that we partner with merchants in more of a considered type purchase, which is why the transaction spend is a little bit different. So rightly between $1,000 and up to $20,000.
When you say more considered, you mean you don't go below 1,000, which might represent impulse purchases, or how do you mean?
Well, we can go below 1,000, but we typically target merchants that have transactions north of that price point.
Sure.
So hence the more considered type purchase. So that might involve merchants in the education space, the home improvement space. Photography, so on and so forth.
Sure.
So we offer terms between 2 months and up to 36 months, which is sort of, relates to that kind of price point. Started in 2016. We started it with my co-founder and brother back at that time, and been several years now, so it's all going relatively well. At the time we sort of started the business there wasn't much by way of opportunity in that space with providers like ours, because no one really servicing that market in that considered purchase and that transaction spend over $1,000. So identifying that need and that demand historically was only really served by credit card companies and those interest-free credit card companies. So that's what gave us the idea to get into it, and it's been going really, really well ever since.
Great gap in the market. Now, you have two customers, the merchant and the customer. What's a typical scenario of both, and how do they use your service most typically?
Yep, we do. We operate products, we have two clients, merchants and consumers. Both are equally important for us, and we PayRight exist to serve both. If we look at an example, I guess that transaction spend that we referred to, so $1,000 plus, quite often that can represent an expensive option for consumers wanting to buy those products and services that sit inside that set. And equally, merchants can sometimes struggle to sell those products and services given the price point. So what we find is merchants might take things out of the sale. They might look at discounting somehow. So what PayRight does is allow the merchant the ability to sell that product and service and sell it over time. So it represents a very affordable method for their end consumer, which ultimately means that they're more likely to purchase and to do so without the merchant needing to erode their margins.
Right. We've seen huge growth in new forms of payment for businesses and retail. How are you guys different from, say, an Afterpay or a Zip Pay?
Yep, sure. Look, we are different to them. We're quite different in a number of different ways, but probably the easiest example is Zip and Afterpay generally deal in a transaction mix that's under $1,000, and we deal with a merchant mix and a transactional mix that's over $1,000. That's really the main thing. Given that transaction size as well, the merchants that we have off the back of that are very different, and we play in quite a different space.
Absolutely. And mate, what are some of the trends you're seeing across retail transactions, both at a consumer and at a merchant level?
Sure. Yeah. I guess we look at the consumer level first. Australian consumers are quite they're early adopters. The payment space in Australia is quite a buoyant one. We are certainly seeing an increase in products like ours in the payment space. In fact, the data that we've got suggests that buy now, pay later is doubling every 2 years, which is kind of at odds with the other traditional methods of payment, like cash and credit cards, which are either declining or remaining quite stable. So we certainly see that trend continuing, and the emergence of other technologies that we're putting into buy now, pay later and other services. If we look at merchants, merchants are just looking for ways to innovate. They want to remain relevant. We know that there's, obviously optimistic about the retail space, but there are some challenges, of course, as people gravitate towards online sales, and bricks and mortar is probably not what it used to be. With the sales periods probably aren't as busy as what they once were. So PayRight's obviously well poised to help both those clients in connecting shopper with buyer either in store or online.
Yeah, the timing is exceptional. What's next for PayRight? Yep,
look, the last few years have been really about us trying to get the product stable. We've grown quite quickly over that period of time. We've seen our technology platform really hone quite well, and we're very excited about where we're at. The next 12 months and beyond is really about us scaling the business, and we're looking forward to that being the key thing. We've got a number of tools that are helping us to do that. We're in the process of launching our e-commerce platform, which is going to enable shoppers to not only buy in store but also online and at the checkout. We're also looking at a number of other technology integrations into the platform at point of sale and payment gateways and the like. We are looking at international expansion, which is moving us into the New Zealand region. So that's also on the cards of the coming months, which is all very exciting.
It's a lot on.
There is. It's going to be a busy 12 months for sure.
That's the way we like it. Paul, you're obviously a successful entrepreneur who's come into the retail space. For those looking to enter the retail space or the payments, financial services space, what advice do you give to budding entrepreneurs to start a successful business today?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of it is about giving it a go. I mean, you've got to identify what the gap in the market is and what problem you can solve properly in identifying that, understanding it, and to be completely honest, just giving it a go. I think that's what holds most people back is the fear of the unknown and not putting themselves into those shoes. And my recommendation for anyone who's looking to get into it is give it a crack.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
Pierce, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. That's it for Entrepreneurs this week. Join us next week as we look at how to balance creativity and commerce. You can watch us anytime on Foxtel Go and on the catch-up section of yourmoney.com.au. I'm Jack Delosa. Good night.